All right, we are here with Collette Newell, and we're here doing our Birth in a Pandemic series. And this is Collette. Collette, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here, letting me interview you.
Yeah, thanks, Hillary.
Um, Collette is a wonderful mother to little baby Skylar, and she's married to a wonderful husband, Nick. And when they contacted me back in March, the first time that I met the two of them, I just loved how smiley you both were. I even wrote it down in my notes, like this couple is smiley. And I love that about you guys because you guys like to laugh and have fun and enjoy life as a whole. And I think that that is a beautiful dynamic that you're going to be able to bring into Skylar's life and just allow him to grow up and have happy go lucky, smiley, laughable parents to raise him. So I really enjoy that about you, Colette. So
Oh, I appreciate that.
and Colette is a teacher and she teaches outdoor ed to the little ones. So that's pretty cool too. Very outdoorsy, adventurous, and which such is life here in Colorado, right? We all enjoy the outdoors as much as we can. Um, but I want to like take you back, Colette, to the beginning. Like the beginning of this pandemic when things really kind of got really serious back in March, because that was kind of when you contacted me and the family nest. I'm just kind of curious what was kind of going through your mind at that time, being pregnant. This pandemic is kind of like closing the doors on us in a way, making us like stay home, stay kind of, away from everybody else. And it kind of just hit. And I was wondering if there was, something that was going on in your planning and preparations that at that time.
Mhm. And to answer that question, when we found out we were pregnant and kind of the course of our birth, Nick and I knew we wanted support, and talking to different friends about what best support that is, and even with what hospital. We went with the Aspen Valley Hospital, who I recommend. But in that network, I mean, it's a small network of two doctors and one midwife, is small, and we're like, well, we want someone constant, that's like we're always going to see, we can always refer to, and people kept recommending get a doula. And so I just started Googling doulas and, Carbondale, and found Hillary. And then a couple other friends recommended the Family Nest and Hillary to me. We started, kind of exploring and interviewed Hillary and was like, all right, she can be our constant through this journey, birth, pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. And really, this is all new to me. Skylar's our first son and first kid. So we didn't know anything about this. Is like, what does pregnancy really entail, and birth, what does that really look like, and what are our choices? And so we needed some guidance, and to have someone that had watched, I don't know, Hillary, how many births have you watched in your course of your career?
Gosh, over 300.
Yeah. It was like, so you've seen it all. And so that kind of gave us confidence that we had this consistency through the birth. And the pandemic, let's see, pregnancy began around January, and that was, we didn't really know much about COVID in the US at that time. And, school was going normally, and how that looks for me and my position is in outdoor ed. I direct and go on all the trips along with a coworker. So we go, every grade has a trip, and so winter trips look like hut trips. I was still going on hut trips at that time, and hut trips last until spring break in the March. And then things started really getting interesting come March, and when everyone's spring break plans, like, what do we do? And Nick and I had trips to leave the country, or plans to leave the country, and those, we canceled those. And so things were it just happened. It seemed like things just escalated very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Nick wasn't allowed to come to my appointments
Right.
at the hospital. And then they were like, no, doulas can't come in to the hospital. And truthfully, I thought, because I was due in September, I was like, oh, this is going to be all over. You know, Hillary, she'll be able to attend our birth because we had at that point committed.
I did too. I thought, oh, this is gonna like wash away and it's gonna go back to normal. Boy, were we blindsided, huh?
Yeah. So I commented, I was like, no problem, Hillary, you'll be there at the birth. And oh, that went the complete opposite way. But you know, at that point, I think everything was still so new. And we were figuring things out. So I think the immediate changes was Nick could not attend the appointments. They closed down the classes that were being offered at the hospital, the birthing classes. You know, they shut those down. The tours of the birthing center, they didn't allow those. So a lot of things seemed to be, as you said before, closing down on us quite quickly, and that was in March. And that's kind of when pregnancy was getting more
Real
interesting. It was becoming more real. Like, okay, Skylar's on his way.
ducks in the row quickly.
Yep, yep. But I'm trying to think of other, and you know, Nick and I were like, well, we have to get that last trip in before, you know, we have a baby. We can't travel as freely. And so that was like, nope, you're not doing that. So it just, things, you know, just on a day-to-day basis, there were some pros and cons. Like you know, we couldn't travel, we couldn't see friends and family as freely as we would have liked to. But then I guess truthfully, a plus side is school. We continued remotely, and it's called the continuous learning plan. So I was seeing students online, but we weren't, you know, which is the best case scenario at that point. But the positive in my outdoor ed position was, you know, I was more grounded. I was at home. So my pregnancy felt a little less stressful because usually I'm on a trip every single week, going with kids,
Go,
having a blast, you know,
go,
doing these
go.
amazing adventures and having, you know, really seeing these kids in their element, which I love. But it's taxing. And so my position changed as more of a support role and to homeroom teachers. And I was home and not commuting up to Aspen every day. So got a little more sleep. And so kind of twisted for me. Not many people have the same experience, but it was a little less stressful at that springtime
Because it gave you the time
for
to
pregnancy.
settle into what was
Mm-hmm.
going to unfold and get you prepared. And is that when you started taking the birth wisdom course? Was around that time too?
Yeah. What week was our first week?
And
Do you remember?
it was somewhere in March.
It was, yeah. Um, because we looked at, you know, we looked at options through Aspen Valley since we were going with them. We're like, okay, well, they have a series class, they have a 1 day class, but they weren't offering those at the time. And then they began offering them, but it wasn't as a comprehensive plan or class as Hillary's birth wisdom. And that class, I don't even know how many weeks was that, 7 or
Six.
yeah, and it was 2 days a week, and it was with this great crew of couples. And the cool
All
thing
around
about,
the world too.
I know, exactly, I was going to say the cool thing was we had one from coast to coast. We had some from like Baltimore to, you know, here in Colorado locally, and then as well as Louisiana. Um, so we had a really cool collection of couples that were all fabulous, and we could share our experiences, not only in the pandemic, but just pregnancy, how we feel going into it emotionally, physically. And the great thing about this class was Hillary had one class that was just for the mothers, and then just one class for the partners, and then the other classes were for both of us. So it was supportive. It walked you through the whole process of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, and like infant care. So it was covered the whole spectrum, and also it was. I have to give it credit. I don't think Nick and I would have been as connected as a couple through the birth if it weren't for this class, because she made us get up and try different positions, supporting, like, okay, what do you say to your partner? How do you say it? How do you support them physically, mentally? So it was a huge, I mean, Nick was,
I was
was
curious
a
about that.
total trooper.
Yeah, I was curious about how you thought
Yeah.
wisdom really helped Nick to support you, not only like when contractions started, but even in the hospital, because I couldn't really, I was with you guys while you labored at home, but once you transferred to the hospital, like I couldn't go in and support you physically, but we did virtual support there. And so I was just curious how you felt like birth wisdom helped Nick support you in the hospital with, everything that you guys had learned previously in the course. Because I know a big piece for
Yeah, because
him
I'm
was,
over and was like, oh,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was like, and then you sent us over to the hospital, when it was time. And he, I think he knew, for example, like when you first walk into the hospital, he takes on the roles, like I'll fill out the paperwork, sign, I'll take all the questions, and I can be in what Hillary calls labor land. And then, making, because it is, you're, as a mother birthing, you are in your zone, and you want to stay in that zone, and just be totally focused and feeling the sensations wash through you. So Nick has to be more the rational one at that point and help make the decisions and be the kind of the voice of reason to a certain extent. So he, through the birth wisdom class, Hillary walked us through different scenarios that could happen and different choices that we'd have at the hospital, whether it's different interventions, different things, how to advocate for your birth, whether different positions to be in, different, the basics of like staying hydrated, or, the real things that will keep you through that marathon of labor. So that was, Nick kept encouraging me, like, here's some water, here's, let's try this position, or let's move around and do this, or, just even simple phrases. So he knew what to do. And granted, I give credit to the Aspen Valley too. They will help and be there and be support. But since you know your partner so well, and having, like, trust them, and they've been through, I feel like sometimes it depends on the person, you might receive that information from your partner more so than someone from the outside. So having them be educated is huge, and was a
And that
great
was really
support.
that was really needed because you were at 8 centimeters for a very, 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 very long time. And gosh, you were, when we were laboring at home, you were doing an amazing job staying focused and concentrated. Um, and we were changing positions. And I remember at one point I was like, all right, Collette, if we want to move this along, like we got to get up and get active. And then as soon as we did, it was like, okay, I think it's time to like head to the hospital. Like this is getting real. And you're like, okay, let's go. And you got to the hospital and we're at 8 centimeters. And you
Mhm.
stayed at 8 centimeters for 7 hours or more. It was 7, 8. Nancy had
Mhm.
9, I had 7. Like you were at
Mhm.
8 centimeters for a very long time. So what
Mhm.
was kind of going to your head that whole time? What were you doing? What were you thinking about for that time? Because I mean, your contractions when you're at 8 centimeters, they're strong, they're steady, they're you were like almost you were at the verge of transition there for a very long time.
Mhm. And I would say the two things that kept me going, one is, some I heard from a couple different people, it is a marathon. Like it's constant. You got to stay focused and just stick with it. It's not going to get easier before it gets harder. So you're just in it. And I think um doing, whether it's long, like endurance events or whatever, and just being focused and being um just in the experience, and letting those sensations wash over your body, and feeling those and knowing they're going to pass. And the thing I learned in the birth wisdom class, Hillary said something to the account of, your body's not going to give you more than you can't handle. So I was like, okay, well, it may get a little harder. It may last for a couple more hours, but it's not going to be something that I can't handle. Like physically, I can handle it. And no, it's not a, I wouldn't say a pleasant experience, but it's
Ah,
an experience, and it's it's, and it can't even, I mean, you can't relate it to any other type of sensation you've had in your life before. It's, but just knowing how, I remember you coached us on how to breathe, you know, as you know, it, the contractions coming, let it, you know, you ride it through. And so those, this simple coaching on how to take each contraction as its individual event and letting it pass. Okay, that's done, move on the next one. And just stay in the moment, really, it helped. So I think knowing those simple techniques, and they're nothing, it's not rocket science, it's nothing but just those simple techniques with that we learn in class and that Nick could support me in, really allowed me to stay without any interventions for whatever, how many hours at 8 centimeters.
a long time.
Because, you know, I didn't want any interventions at that time. I was like, no, we don't need them, we're good. But then, you know, to talk about kind of the birth story, it, you know, it didn't go as, you know, I would have chosen if I would have written my own birth story. And so I ended up having a cesarean section. So I had kind of the best of both worlds, the full on labor and then the C-section, because he wasn't dropping. You know, I was dilated, but he wasn't dropping into my pelvic bowl, dropping into the station. So, and what they think his head was pressing against my pelvic bone, so he wasn't coming back into my
With
pelvic
that.
bowl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that, in really, in how to make that decision, because no one ever wants to, or my choice wasn't to go in for a C-section, but for the health of me and the baby, that was the option after we had tried some other interventions just before that. Nick, and knowing how to make decisions, kept, I think Hillary phrased it as, you know what, you can't write your birth story and have it run out exactly as written, right? There's always turns in the road, there's always bumps, there's always, you know, it's going to unfold as it will unfold and how it's supposed to unfold. So, you know, how do you take that road and follow it and be prepared and be accepting of what comes your way? And
Hating it. Yeah.
yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of, why I teach the way I do, because you just never know how birth is going to unfold, and I really want everyone to be prepared for anything that comes up, how to navigate anything, any of your choices, procedures, interventions, all of that, so that you can feel like you're in control of where it's going, because you have the choice to decide, um, take the information from your care providers, your doula, your partner, yourself, and say, okay, what do I feel is best for me in this moment? Because we can't plan for everything. I mean, really,
Mm-hmm.
especially in labor and birth, you know. So I'm really glad that you guys felt like you had all the tools necessary to ask the right questions and get the information you needed to proceed in the best way for your birth to really unfold and have that little boy come earthside.
Mm-hmm. And I guess speaking to the pandemic, like Hillary, you were with us at home and then sent us on our way to the hospital, and we're on the phone with Nick on speakerphone because that was just easier than, I mean, I'm sure you would have done FaceTime if you wanted, but on speakerphone the entire car ride through the hospital, really through the, I mean, how many hours and hours and hours at the hospital, you were there on the phone with us, and that was reassuring for both of us, and we could ask you questions and you feel different scenarios by you. So even in the time of pandemic, no, I mean, I know Valley View is offering doulas at this time. Aspen is not, might change tomorrow. Things are constantly changing, and I don't know when, and I hope it's sooner than later that they allow doulas at every hospital again. But, I would say I would never not go with a doula because of the fact that you couldn't come to the hospital. I feel like you were still able to support us in what we needed via the phone, via the speaker, and um,
Just being like a sounding board when things are coming up. like, Hillary, what's your experience then with this? And, a way to give you guys, benefits and risks of everything. And then even trying different positions, because girl, we tried some positions and tried to get that baby to move. We tried everything in the book. And so, walking Nick through how to, help you get into positions and how he could like support you in different positions by holding you up or holding your legs or holding the back of your shoulders. And I know that the doctors and the nurses there at the hospital were really good. It was like we were all working as a team. Even though I was on speakerphone, I still felt like I was very much a part of the team and very involved. And I think that is so essential, even if doulas can't be in the room physically, that they're still there to help partner, to help you, to like really be a part of the team, someone that you've already built a relationship with and trust because they've been there through pregnancy and can be there, not physically, but can be there to help support you in every other way. Um,
Mhm.
so
I think just relaxing, knowing who your team is on your side at that point, through birth is huge, because relaxing into the moment of just being like, it's going to be okay, however it goes and however it unfolds, I think and not to be scared or in that fear. I think that was one of the things we had talked about, just not being in that fear cycle allows for that birth to unfold and for you to be in such a better space mentally and less physically. So knowing, having, okay, Hillary's right there. She's hearing everything that's going on. It was relaxing for me. Maybe not relaxing isn't the best word, but the best word of choice, but, reassuring. There we go.
so now that you have that cute, oh my gosh, that cute little boy, and you guys are a few months, what, 2 months? It's almost 2 months.
Almost 3. Well, yeah, almost. Let's see, because he's born September 20th. So yeah, he's coming on 3 months.
Close to 3 months old. And
Yeah.
so how has like being a new mom in, you know, this pandemic kind of, what's your like gems and what's your like, I feel like I'm missing out kind of things that have come up for
Mhm.
you?
I guess the gem or the positive is people are more aware of washing their hands or being more aware, like sanitary, and cautious. So, whether you might have someone coming up to your baby, or like, you have no clue who it is, or people just coming into your house without an invite, just like a bombarding of people. It's when you want to be so insulated. I mean, this is like just in general, not even in pandemic world, but you just want to have that insulated space when you bring home a newborn. So that I think is a positive. People are more aware and a little more cautious. So you are able to create that kind of safe haven and uh, home before, and then you can welcome in people as you're comfortable. But I mean, the tricky thing is, this is the one year I haven't been bummed about the late arrival of snow. Like winter is my I love winter, and I love playing out in the snow, and I love everything about it, and it snow all year round. But for once in my life, I was like, all right, we're okay. The days are beautiful. I can take hikes with Skylar, and meet up with friends outside. And whether it's having lunch, with distance lunch out on the deck, or taking a walk, because, as the weather changed past week, it's different. It's harder to connect with friends and connect with fellow moms and family when you, and everyone has a different comfort level, but when you don't, like Nick and I don't feel comfortable having friends over in our house yet. We have kept pretty conservative about, having Skylar be exposed and us being exposed to different people. And so, we're thinking about the holidays, and do we travel and see my parents? That's a question. So, they change so fast, and you want your parents and your family, your friends to see these changes. And I would love Skylar to be held by all different people, to have that just meeting in that sensation of seeing different people's faces and smiles, and you're like, no, you're Skylar's looking at people with masks on, and how bizarre is that? So it's a little lonelier. I mean, I'm would say an introvert more than an extrovert for sure. So it hasn't been that I'm okay with not having as much social interaction, but it is, you do, no matter who you are as a postpartum mother, you need support. And whether it's a phone call, a walk with a friend, and it's not as easy in a pandemic world. And like I just went and got my Subaru oil changed yesterday, and I was like, well, do I go in the waiting room? And I'm trying to feed and keep Skylar warm outside. And I'm like, oh, I was kind of like, I'm just like, I'm over the pandemic. It makes everything a little harder.
Challenging.
Um, yeah.
Of keeping that bubble of protection around your family, and then not feeling too isolated where you're just like closed off and don't have anyone to, express what you're going through with or share in the emotions. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this time is very isolating, especially for new moms that and thank God that you're still able to, go on outdoor walks with, friends, and with Skylar, just to at least get outside.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then having Nick, being able to work at home, I'm sure is
Right.
a big positive too, so that you guys can really, I mean, the three of you have really solidified the team as mom and dad and baby, man. You guys
Yeah.
work as a team. You guys are always bouncing new ideas off each other, and I really look up to that kind of dynamic that you guys are really willing to be there for each other and figure this new life out, holding each other up high. So beautiful to
Yeah.
witness.
It's been a saving grace just to have Nick working from home, because there's so much to figure out as a new mom with a baby, and be like, here, Nick, hold him for 2 minutes while I warm up something to eat. Or um, so it's just those little things, and having Nick there or having someone there is so important. And I know, Hillary, you came over like kind of at the beginning, like once a week or so, just to see how we were doing, and you go over like how to bathe Skylar, or different, help with breastfeeding, or um, sleeping scenarios, and setting up his spaces. And so, I mean, that was helpful, because yeah, we read a ton of books and that, but having someone actually see your space, see your dynamic between you and your partner is helpful to walk through it in your personal scenario, because everyone's scenario is different.
Yeah, it's so unique, and even with your, breastfeeding journey is very unique between you and Skylar, and to be able to spend that time, I think, me, especially as a care provider, to be able to do that on a one-on-one basis and sit down with parents is so crucial, because you need that time to like know how your unique situation is and how to help through that. So it's very unique for each and every family, each and every baby.
Mm-hmm.
Very unique to you guys. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's constantly changing. Every day is like an adventure. You're like, oh, you know, there, we don't have a routine yet, and nor do I expect it. But it is like every day is just a little, a new adventure as they change and we
yeah,
change.
right when you get it figured out, it changes again. You're like, oh, we had things figured out.
Yeah.
You grew more. Now you do this, and here we go, changing again. So,
Very
that's
true.
just taking it one day at a time. It's sometimes all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's today gonna look like? Let's just be in the moment, and
Mm-hmm.
you guys always have a big smile on your faces, and trying
Yeah.
to make light of situations that are a little crazy. Trying to see that those gems and those blissful moments, even when it's
Yeah.
hard. So
There's been some highs and lows for sure. Some laughs and some cries, but yeah, it's been. But I have felt in the pandemic. I mean, given just connecting with friends outside and having you as being a support, and our families have been great, whether it's just a phone call away. we've been very grateful for all that. And friends, I mean, having them set up a meal train or stop by and bring things, it's because you never have appreciated it so much as when you have your hands full and you're like, I don't even know how to make dinner right now.
What's power?
Yeah, exactly. So it's been, those little things we appreciate so much. Those little gifts of whether it's words or things or food or, yeah, they're
Right.
appreciated.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Collette, for spending time with me here today, and for all of those who are watching. If you want to find out more about any services that the Family Nest offers, you can visit www.familynestcolorado.com and check out what the Birth Wisdom program is all about and doula care and what kind of support that you might need. So, and if you like this video, this is the series Birth in a Pandemic. So stay tuned for more, like the video, and subscribe. All right, everyone, take care.
Thank you.